Howdy, howdy do, Who fans, and welcome to the Big Blue Box podcast. My name is Gary.
My name's Adam.
And welcome to episode 264.
One day, I shall come back. Yes, I shall come back. Until then, there must be no regrets, no tears, no anxieties. Just go forward in all your beliefs and prove to me that I am not mistaken in mine.
Our lives are different to anybody else's. That's the exciting thing. Nobody in the universe can do what we're doing.
I've reversed the polarity of the neutron flow, so the TARDIS should be free of the force field now.
You may be a doctor, but I'm the doctor. The definite article, you might say.
The trouble with time travel is, one never seems to find the time.
Change, my dear, and it seems not a moment too soon.
Unlimited rice pudding, etc., etc.
I am the Doctor!
For now, for this moment, I am the Doctor again.
The ground beneath our feet is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour. And the entire planet is hurtling around the sun at 67,000 miles an hour, and I can feel it. We're falling through space, you and me.
People assume that time is a strict progression of cause to effect, but actually, from a non-linear, non-subjective viewpoint, it's more like a big ball of wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff.
I could be a curator. I'd be great at curating. I'd be the great curator.
I could retire and do that.
I'm the Doctor. I've lived for over 2,000 years, and not all of them were good. I've made many mistakes, and it's about time that I did something about that.
Bit of adrenaline, dash of outrage, and a hint of panic knitted my brain back together. I know exactly who I am. I'm the Doctor. Sorting out fair play throughout the universe.
Howdy, howdy, howdy do, Who fans. Hope you've all had a cracking week, that you've all stayed safe, and that you're all healthy, and that you've all managed to do something Doctor Who related. Yeah. 264.
Absolutely.
Welcome back. Long-time listeners. Waving to people that have just jumped on board. It's good to have you aboard the TARDIS. The old Big Blue Box. In a week where we've seen lockdown continue. We are still not trapped, but we have to stay put for a bit longer.
Can you imagine when they lift it? Everyone's just going to be like caged animals, like running into the street, like, "Way!" It's going to be like that scene in Utopia where they're all just running.
Well, apparently the old social distancing stuff is going to be the norm for a while.
Yeah.
They reckon. So kiss goodbye all the cool cons and events we had planned.
I think so, mate. Yeah, I think so.
I can't see any mass gatherings going on anytime soon.
It's funny because I don't know if you do this, but when I'm watching like Doctor Who, for example, and I'll sit there and I'll subconsciously start thinking in my head, oh, I'd love to meet them. I hope they do a convention. Oh, I bet he'd be good to meet. And then it just occurs to me that a lot of the ones I want to meet are of a certain age, and probably the chances of actually meeting them now is going to be way off, if at all. Because, like you said, with the social distancing thing, I don't think anybody of past a certain age is going to want to do a con for obvious reasons, because it's the older sort of person that's more acceptable to getting it. So, people like Tom Baker, for example, I sort of wouldn't want Tom to do a convention because I just wouldn't want the risk of anything happening to Tom. Do you know what I mean? So it's like people like that. I just think we're not going to see them at a convention. I don't think.
No, I don't think so, bud. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, and although like the lockdown's continuing, and it's not the best and all that, we have seen a really cool side of Who fandom over the last month or so.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that Who fandom's been at its best for a while, because since Series 11, when Jodie started, there seems to have there was always, as anyone that's been involved in Who fandom for years now will know, there's always a bit of a to and fro. There's always people that like stuff and don't like stuff and all that. But for some reason, when Jodie took over, that was such a big turning point in the show, obviously. And fandom almost imploded, really. There was just such a massive chasm of a split of opinion and so on, and people were being really, really crappy to each other for a while.
Yeah.
But it feels like we've come back. We've kind of steered the ship back on a decent course now over the last month or two. Fandom really has been like the best that I've seen it and witnessed for a long time. So
yeah, we've
nice.
had some amazing content come out since the lockdown. The little chapter that Russell wrote a couple of months back. What was it? The prequel to Rosa, or the the little we've had things like that I'm thinking, would we ever have seen that? It was, what was it? It's the last chapter, something he wrote for Doctor Who magazine, wasn't it? That never got published for one reason or another. I can't think what it was now.
It was I'm sure it was it was either a prequel or a sequel to the first or final.
I said
chapter.
Rosa as well, and I meant Rose, of course, not Rosa.
Yeah. Things like that. And Emily Cook, is it Emily Cook that's been arranging the watch-alongs and stuff? She's done a great job of getting all that stuff going on. And then we've had things like a lot more content creators have been doing live streams and extra stuff, and there's virtual pub quizzes going on, and all these cool things. It seems to be bringing everyone together. It's great.
Yeah, I was going to say that is the plus side of it. It really has sort of brought, because we're sort of all trapped inside. This whole idea of having everyone getting together at a certain time and watching a certain episode, and people are jumping in Zoom chats to watch them all together, and it definitely has brought a big side of the fandom back together again, I think. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is a great thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So that prequel to Rose, I think, was the Time War, wasn't it? Doctor Who and the Time War. Yeah.
That's it.
There we go.
Which was really good, because I think it was the Mothball that put it's supposed to be published in Doctor Who magazine. I think Russell wrote it, and then the Mothball was like, "Oh, I'm actually planning something to do with the Time War, so can you not publish it or something?" And Russell was like, "Well, that's you sleeping on the sofa," or something like that, because those two obviously are really good friends now, aren't they? So. But yeah, it's great that finally got published. It was a really nice. I did read it when he put it on Instagram. Lovely it was.
He's the man, isn't he, Russell?
He is the man. He really is, actually. I'm so glad that he's sticking around on Twitter. Mm-hmm. I may as well just say before you ask me what I've been doing, because I know you did it as well. He did the tweet along for the Stolen Earth Journey's End.
Yeah.
The other night. I haven't watched that for years, It's so long since I watched that episode, and that was probably one of the best tweet alongs. So you had, Russell was tweeting along, David Tennant was tweeting along, although to be fair, he was mostly just watching. I think it was Georgia, his wife.
She was. Yeah.
Posting pictures. She's really funny on Twitter as well, and she kept posting pictures of him, like with glasses of wine, saying he is watching it, he is here, and I'm topping up his glass, and and all this sort of stuff. But it's great to have David on Twitter. He did comment a few things, didn't he? And Catherine, of course, how can I forget? Catherine Tate was also tweeting along. Now, she was funny. I mean, straight away she put something like, "Oh, I love this episode. Is this the one where I'm wearing a wedding dress?" And we're like, "No, Catherine. She's just brilliant. I love Catherine Tate." So yeah, that was a great tweet along, and I know you joined in as well. We were both on Twitter for that one, weren't we?
It was great. Yeah. A load of people. I say a load. A few people said. They didn't hear from us very much, and they haven't heard from us very much during these tweet-alongs and whatnot. And I think you and I have got a similar opinion to this in that because we do the podcast each and every week, we have to like it's a chore. We have to watch Doctor Who every single week, and on top of that, we normally watch something to do with Doctor Who or the spin-offs or whatever, or Classic Who.
Yeah.
Just on our own anyway, without even having to do the podcast. And then when life is normal, we're off at conventions and doing that stuff. And I manage the writing team and the website and all that stuff. So a big chunk of our life is Doctor Who for a lot of the time. So every now and then it's just lovely to not have to think about something from a podcaster's point of view or a YouTuber's point of view or something like that. Sometimes it's just nice just to relax and enjoy everything as a fan and not feel like we have to contribute massively to what's going on. There have been some people that have done that, and that's all good. Some people have live streamed alongside it, or they've done sort of Instagram live streamed or whatever what you want to do alongside it. But yeah, I don't know about you, mate, but it's just for these watch alongs with the tweet alongs, it's just been lovely just to sit back and and watch that stuff and read Twitter and just appreciate it as a fan and not have to think, oh, I have to be tweeting because it's for the podcast or your YouTube channel or something.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say, there's a couple of reasons. I mean, I do tweet a couple of things during it, but I mainly just sit there and read, like, because the thing is, you normally have, like I said, even for that one, you had about 5 or 6 people from the show to try and follow on Twitter. So they have the hashtag, but with the hashtag, you still get everyone's comments as well. So to try and just read like David's, Catherine's and Russell's, you sort of have to keep flicking between their Twitter. So that in itself is enough to keep you occupied. So I don't really have time to sort of tweet in between that. Plus, I'm normally watching along with the Who Addicts because they normally do a live stream. So I'm normally watching them, chatting with them, trying to read the comments on Twitter, trying to watch the episode. So I sort of get to the end of it. I think, I haven't tweeted anything because I've sort of just been, like you said, immersed in all that's going on with it. And what I tend to do is just put a tweet at the end saying, like, that was great and whatever, something like that. So I just sort of normally put a tweet out at the end. But yeah, that's the reason. It's normally because I'm sort of involved in about 4 or 5 different things. And like you said, I just want to sort of be immersed in it rather than just sort of tapping away on my phone. Plus, there's so many people comment as well. I think it just sort of gets lost, doesn't it? So it's like some people, I didn't know this, but Twitter has a limit of how many tweets you can like or something. I had no idea about this, or how many tweets you can tweet in a certain time space. So some people have been like, oh, Twitter's suspended me because I've liked too many tweets. Like, what? But yeah, that's the other reason. It's just because I'm just normally just like you. I just want to immerse in the whole episode. And also, for example, this particular 2-parter, we haven't reviewed, I don't think. Have we? I always question myself when I say that. I don't think we've done this one. So again, I don't want to give too much away because, we like to sort of shield our thoughts from each other, don't we? So that it's fresh when we do review these on the podcast. So don't think we've reviewed Journey's End. No. So again, I like to keep a bit of that back so that, so that you don't know what I think of it and I don't know what you think of it. Although I think on this one, maybe we do.
We probably do on this one.
I get a feeling we might be on the same page on this one. But anyway, so yeah, there's lots of reasons like that. But I just love the tweet alongs. I think they're great.
Yeah, they are
really
great.
Good fun. Do bring together. You mentioned the pub quiz as well, the virtual pub quiz, and I did that last night. So the Doctor Who virtual pub quiz, which our good friends Adam and Callum have set up, becoming really popular. And I was in that last night. I don't know where I came. I wasn't last, but I certainly wasn't first. I think I was in the middle somewhere. Yeah, they're really good fun. So I did that last night, and we had a special guest. We had Sophie Aldred popped in to give us a question, which was pretty amazing.
Oh, nice. Cool.
Actually, I'll see if you can get it, although I can't remember the answer. Well, the question was, what is Ace's real name? I'm like, oh, well, that's easy. Got it. Dorothy McShane, right?
No.
But Dorothy's got a middle name, which I've forgotten. But if you didn't get the middle name, you only got half a point. And I was like, oh, no, I didn't know Ace had a middle name. What? So, yeah, a bit tricky that. I can't think what it is, but there'll be listeners screaming at us with the answers. So stuff like that anyway.
That sounds really... It was cool for Sophie to drop in and do that, though.
Yeah, it was. They had Bonnie Langford did one last week. They've got Katie Manning next week. It's brilliant. They just play in the clip into a Zoom chat. It's really good fun. So me and you are going to do it next week, aren't we? We're doing a team. We're doing the podcast team.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So that's going to be fun. So I need to get genned up because some of the questions, I tell you, there was a lot where it's right on the tip of your brain. And it's like, oh, no, I know this. So the two of us, hopefully together,
we'll be fine. Yeah.
Although we won't remember anyone's names, will we? If we get any names round, we'll be absolutely...
Yep. I was just about to say, anything to do with people's either character or actors' names will be screwed. Although I do know Ace's full name.
What is it? Go on.
Yeah,
what's her middle name?
Gail.
Gail, that's it, yeah. Dorothy Gail McShane.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah.
There we go.
So that's all I've been doing, really. It's just, interacting on socials, virtual pub quizzes. That's been me, really. What have you been up to?
Mate. Yeah, exactly the same. Yeah, just watching along the tweet-alongs and all that stuff. That's it, mate.
Which have been good. What's the next one? They're doing Family of Blood. The Tennant one. I think that might, by the time this podcast go out, I think that might have just happened, actually. That's the next one.
Yes, I think so. Yeah. And also by the time this podcast goes out, we would have also seen the So a lot of the actors are taking part in this charity show tonight. So we're recording this on Thursday, the 23rd of April, and the BBC so by the time you listen to this, it would have gone, but they were doing this thing called the Big Night In, which is a charity thing, and which is like a collaboration between Children in Need and Comic Relief. And it went from 7 till 10, but loads of actors are in on it. So Tom Baker, Davison, Colin Baker, McCoy, McGann, Tennant, Matt Smith, Capaldi, Joe Whittaker, and Joe Martin.
Wow.
Are all making an appearance for this, which would be really cool. And then I think David Tennant is also doing a sketch later on in the evening with Catherine Tate.
Oh, brilliant.
Because she's going to do her schoolgirl character, Lauren. Because they did that, and the teacher's going to be played by David Tennant. They did this already.
They did, yeah.
In her series years ago. So that'd be cool to see that. And I think Matt Lucas is doing something else with David Williams. So that's going to be cool tonight. I'm going to check that out. So that's 7 p.m. So we'll let you guys know next week what we thought of that. But that's really cool that they've drafted in a load of Doctor actors to do stuff for that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I'm wondering what it's going to be like actually. But yeah, I'm looking forward to watching that.
Yes. So in terms of today's show for 264, we've got no merch. It's like tumbleweed out there for merch at the moment.
Dalek's Hat's just loving it, isn't he? He's just getting to not do any work every week.
Do you know what? He was cheeky the other day.
What's he asking for? A furlough contract now?
Well, we've had really good weather, haven't we? The sun's been lovely.
Oh, it's been fantastic.
Yeah. When I was up, so in my office, I overlook the back garden, and it's lovely and sunny out there. I saw him out there. I thought, what's he doing out there? And I didn't think anything of it. I did some work. A couple of minutes later, looked out the window. I saw a few little tentacles coming out. I thought, he's sunbathing out there. He's bloody sunbathing. The cheek of it.
Yeah. I hope he's wearing sun cream.
Well, that's to go.
Otherwise, he'll look like an old prune by the end of the.
I didn't want to shout at him in front of the neighbours.
No.
So I just threw a stone at him from the back door. And he swiftly buggered off back in the shed, so he's all good. But yeah, bloody sunbathing.
He is loving life at the minute.
He's loving it.
He's got it very easy.
Yeah.
He's getting to do some cleaning around the house.
He already does. Yeah, that's none of that's
get an
changed.
Apron on him.
Yeah. So none of that's. It's going no merch to speak of, which is a shame. But we got a couple of bits of news to go through, and then we are on to our review of Kinder. Kinda Kinder. Before we get on to all of that stuff, though, remember to subscribe to the show in whatever podcast app you listen to your podcasts on. There's links on our website, bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. You can go off and drop us up there. And if you love the show, or you like the show, or you tolerate the show, if you've got a minute to leave a review, that would be awesome, because that helps us out loads and loads. We're on the socials too, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And we've got a bunch of really cool articles that go out each and every week from our writing team on the website, who cover everything from Big Finish reviews to editorials about classic Who subjects or convention roundups when they're going on, obviously. All that stuff, so go and check that out. And also check out my co-host's YouTube channel, The Geek's Handbag.
Yes. Indeed.
Indeedy. So, shall we land this and do a wee bit of news?
Go on then.
So the first thing I thought would be good to put in here is as a result of the watch along that we had at the weekend for Stolen Earth Journey's End was, remember last week we recorded and we read out the tweet from Russell that said this is going to be the best thing he's ever done and this is going to be amazing. And
yes,
you said very correctly at the time, you said, well, this better be good because he's bigged it up to be quite the event. So along with the coolness anyway of just watching along and have those guys tweet and stuff, he did also release this this lovely little little episode, which was called Farewell Sarah Jane, and it was essentially just the closing, like the closing chapter, if you like, to the Sarah Jane adventures, where we've already gone through the process of her passing away, the character that is, and now it's everybody has sort of descended to sort of pay their respects and say hello and goodbye, essentially, to everybody. And it was narrated by, I forget the lad's name. I think it's Jacob Dudman.
Yeah.
I think
Dudman,
who's a really, really good. Is he the guy that does the bang on Matt Smith and David Tennant voice?
That's right. Yeah.
He's got a really, really cool narration voice. Anyway, Russell wrote this, and he's basically saying, everybody turned up and went back to Bannerman Road, and then it cuts to like these little bits where the actors from the show have done their little bits, and I was in bits, mate, after watching this. I don't know about you.
Oh, I still am, to be honest. It was it was absolutely so beautifully written. Just a lovely, lovely send off. And I think what really hit home with this was that you could tell. So everyone that had recorded a little video clip and then they'd edited them all together, like Katie Manning and who else we had in there, all the attic crew. You could sort of tell that although they're talking about Sarah Jane, that they're actually speaking about Liz Sladen as well. You could just see and hear it in there. It wasn't like a performance. The words just were so heartfelt. It was just beautiful. And I was surprised by it because I thought when Russell announced that he was going to be releasing this Farewell Sarah Jane, I thought it was going to be like the Rose prequel thing that we talked about earlier, where it'd just be like a script that you go online and read. And I thought, so I wasn't expecting this sort of mini little episode, for want of a better word. And it's just beautiful. It really is. And it stayed with me for hours after. It's still with me now. Do you know what I mean? I was sat in the garden about a couple of hours after watching it. I was still thinking about it. I was just sat there thinking, God, I loved that. It was very emotional, just beautiful, very beautiful. And what I love about it is the end where he says, it's sort of saying there's, maybe Sarah isn't passed on. Maybe maybe the doctor turned up after all and took her away and all that sort of stuff. Just the whole thing was just so beautifully written. Yeah, really, really nice treat. And it does make me wonder again. I know this lockdown's been awful, but is this, would we have ever got this if it wasn't for the lockdown? Is this a sort of, all the sort of good things that are coming out of the lockdown as well? But yeah, this is a real treat, an absolute treat.
This was, mate. Yeah, and this knocked me for 6, like you.
It really, really has. If anyone hasn't watched this, just go and watch it. It's just brilliant. It really is. Yeah, just to see the whole attic crew back as well.
Yeah, we don't see the actress who played Maria, because
no, I noticed that. Does she get mentioned though? Because
she does.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think the Maria and her dad were on a video screen from America.
That's right, of course, yeah.
They were chasing something around Seattle or something, some alien or something like that. Yeah, and it is lovely because in a way it's a lovely kind of goodbye and closure and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it just goes to show, doesn't it? Russell really does. When he's as a writer, I just don't think you can match him when it comes to Doctor Who. Just his words are just so heartfelt. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, but it's also another, like Rani goes through this whole thing, like you said, the whole thing about Sarah Jane. She didn't actually die. She was, the doctor turned up. Let's go on, another adventure and so on.
Yeah,
but it cuts to a bit where Jacob then says, "Well, we're just waiting for the next one now." So the house has sort of been left just to sit and sort of do nothing.
Oh, that end shot. Mm-hmm. Oh man, there was so much I took away from it that I loved. I mean, not only just all the sort of goodbyes and memories and all that they brought up, but also when they talked about Ace being at the funeral and walking off with K9, I was like, guys, this is just amazing. And there's a spin-off waiting to happen. Ace and K9. I mean, just the perfect. You can see it in your mind's eye, can't you? Like Ace at the funeral, she walks off with K9, and then she's with the attic crew and she gets all back together, and it's just, carries on the adventure, and Sarah Jane's out there somewhere with the doctor. It's just all the stuff that Russell manages to conjure in your mind that just takes you to the next level. Amazing stuff. Yeah. But I love the thought of that. Just thought it was beautiful. And obviously to see I've forgotten his name. What's the son called? The Bane son.
Oh, Luke.
Sorry, the emotions got to me. Luke, just to hear him when he come on screen and was talking as well, I think that was the bit that I'd already gone to pieces by then. But when he come on and started talking to his mum, ooh, man, that just, took me over the edge. But yeah, just really, really, I just can't say it enough. Just a really, really beautiful send-off from Russell. Yeah.
And you don't need to have seen any of Sarah Jane to appreciate it. It's just
no,
it's cool. So we'll link to that in the show notes. But yeah, definitely go and check that out. It's awesome.
Were you? I know this is I'm glad this didn't happen, but part of me when I first watched this was kind of expecting David Tennant to, because I kept thinking obviously the Doctor's got to be there. Like there's no way the Doctor wouldn't be there. And I just kind of thought like David might turn up. I don't know why. I'm glad he didn't, because I think it's great that she possibly goes off with a Doctor, and it could be any Doctor. It could be Pertwee, it could be Matt, because it could be Jodie, it could be any Doctor. But I don't know why. I just kept thinking, because that was the thing. Every time someone new popped up, you're thinking, God, they've got, who else have they managed to get in this? They seem to have got everybody in it. Because I should imagine when the actors were approached, they probably jumped at the chance, like, we're doing a tribute to Liz Slater. Who's going to say no to that? Come on. Of course you're going to want to be a part of it. So, but yeah, every time somebody new come up on screen, I kept thinking, who will they say? Is the Doctor? Is there going to be a Doctor at the end of this? But I think it was just right. The way they did it, absolutely perfection.
No, it was great.
Yeah. So yeah, go and check that out. Right, so moving on before me and Gary turn into blubbering messes all over again. The Doctor Who Appreciation Society, otherwise known as DWAS, they do, or they used to do, a magazine called TARDIS, which was last published in 2003. Well, it's coming back, and they're redoing a new issue, so I think it's going to be 3 issues a year. So if you're a member of DWAS, you'll be able to get this magazine discount. If you're not, you'll be able to just go onto their website and publish it anyway. And just to give you a bit of blurb about it, it says, the world of Doctor Who fandom has changed beyond recognition since we last published, and nowadays there are very few printed fan magazines. Celestial Toymaker remains the staple of DWAS's own output, giving air to a wide range of views. So that's the Celestial Toy Room is the magazine they currently do if you're a DWAS member. So this is going to be sort of an additional one to run alongside that. Now, I think I need to read the thing. So I think is it going to be a colour magazine?
I think so.
Yes, I think so. I was reading because there's quite a lot of write-up about this. So it started as a hand-duplicated title. Yes, this is when we need Rick on. We need to get Rick from the DWAS.
We do, yeah.
On to tell us all about it. But yes, this does sound very cool anyway. I just like the fact that they're bringing this back, because the thing with DWAS is obviously, being the Doctor Appreciation Society, they really put in the work on these magazines, and they always get really kooky artwork, really nice artwork, covers and stuff like that. So they're always really good. So this is interesting.
It is, yeah. It looks really cool, and it's always nice to have stuff, because I imagine when was this last out? It was
2003.
2000, yeah. So it would have been really cool back then to have. As a Doctor Who fan, it's great anyway. So to have something called the TARDIS magazine, that's just so awesome. So the fact that they're bringing this back, it's just really cool. And they've got a new editor to oversee it, so it should be good.
Yeah, it's just nice to have something else in print sort of coming out, if you like, to go alongside. He's right. We don't get a lot now, do we? Doctor Who Mag, of course.
Of course, yep.
Yeah, and Celestial Toy Room is another great publication they do for their, for the members, and you can buy that online as well. So yeah.
Yes.
Very good, guys. Glad to see that coming back.
Yep. And the DWAS also, if you're a member, no, I think they give it away for free anyway. They do this thing called the Cosmic Mask magazine as well, which is great. And in the last issue that went out a few days ago, there's a review by me in there of all of the Doctor Who on BritBox stuff. So it gives you a rundown on how to find certain things on BritBox that's not apparent when you first log in to the Doctor Who bit, and a rundown of all the picture quality and sound, all that lot. So shameless plug for my article in there. But so the Cosmic Mask magazine is also very, very cool. And I believe that's free. That's like a PDF online thing. So, but yeah, the DWAS just doing the business as always. And you can find more details over at dwasonline.co.uk. But they've not released any pricing or when it's going to be out at the moment. But I'd imagine to be in the next few months. I would imagine.
Absolutely, go and check out Dwas.
Go and check it out. Right, dude. That's news. No merch, as we've said. So review time, bud.
Yes, on to Fluffy 5, a Fluffy 5 story, and this week it is Kinder.
Mara inhabit the dark places of the inside.
Wherever the wheel turns, there is suffering, delusion, and death. Now the Mara turns the wheel of life.
With my help, you could become all powerful. I am a Mara. Do not resist. I am your strength.
Put the light on! Put the light on!
Open the box.
I don't think that would be very wise. Open it! I have the power of life and death over all of you!
What a banging trailer for Kinder.
Fantastic trailer, yeah. Brilliant, love that. Although I was waiting for the line, it wasn't in there. I was waiting for, you can't mend people, can you? I was thinking, come on, he's saving it to the end. No. But yeah, great trailer, that.
Indeed, yeah. Kinder, then. We haven't done a Davison in a while, I don't think.
We haven't, have we? No. God,
no.
Been a while.
Yeah, so this was first broadcast back in February 1982.
Cool.
It was written by Christopher Bailey, overseen by Eric Saywood, and a couple of other people, I think, uncredited. It was directed by Peter Grimwade. It's a 4-parter, and the story is roughly...
Yeah, good luck with this one.
Yeah, the Doctor lands on a planet called Diva Loca, which sounds like a dance, I know.
It does.
And Nyssa buggers off very early. She's got the headache.
What's that with her?
So she's got headache. So she buggers off in the TARDIS. We don't see her at all. So now it's down to the Doctor, Tegan, Adric to go off on the adventure. Tegan gets zombified for a portion of it. So it's down to the Doctor and Adric to come up with, to solve what's going on. I think so. Roughly, there's some people there who we suspect might be from Earth, and they're looking to sort of research and recon planets because the Earth has been overpopulated. So they need to find out if this is suitable to colonize and all that stuff. So while they're investigating and doing all that stuff, they're kind of living side by side with the Kinder, which is like this race of people there that don't speak. They communicate telepathically. And there's also another presence on the planet, the Mara. This overtakes or inhabits Tegan, and then it inhabits one of the Kinder people, and then all hell breaks loose, and the Doctor gets captured, as you would expect in classic Who, and there's a bit of escape and a big snake puppet, and then this is back.
Yeah, and that's funny the way she just pops up at the end. Oh, well, anything be happening? No, come on, off we go.
Yeah, that's great, isn't it? Yeah, so we could have used you multiple times, Nyssa, during this story, but there we go. So off the bat then, dude. One that, do you know what, we never... it's a weird story, Kinder, because nobody ever really speaks about it.
No, they don't.
All the conversations I've ever had with you, other Who fans, about the Davison era, for some reason, Kinder just never surfaces as something to talk about. I don't know. So what do you reckon, dude, to this one?
That's a very good point, actually, yeah. That is a very good point. I've never thought about that. In all the conversations down the pub with Ad and yourself and everyone else, have we ever mentioned Kinder? We must have, but yeah, you're right. It's not one that pops up very often. And the interesting thing about that is this story. Normally, I think I get I've known you a while now, and I get a rough idea in my head of whether you're going to like something or not. I think you did catch me by surprise the other week with Utopia, because I thought you were going to love that. So every now and again, there's a story where I think, oh, okay. But this is one where I cannot call the shots at all on this one. I could not, all the way watching this, I was thinking, I wonder what Gary, I could not tell. And I think that's the same with anyone. Kinder is such an unusual story. And it's really hard to know if someone's going to like it or love it. So if you would sort of say to someone who hasn't watched Kinder, who's perhaps making their way through the classics, I was going to watch Kinder, would it be one you'd recommend? Would it be one would you think, are they going to enjoy it? So yeah, I've genuinely no idea what you made of this. I'm really looking forward to finding out. But myself, I really enjoyed this. I was going to watch it because I remember it. I know it's all studio bound, and once we get into colour Doctor Who, I always struggle a bit. I always like to see a bit of location. I love my location. So with Pertwee, I just always love it when suddenly they're on location. So studio bound ones from the 80s, I sometimes find a bit hard going because I like to have something to break it up. So remembering this is studio bound, I thought I'm going to watch this 2 episodes at a time. I'm going to break this up. I'm not going to sort of try and watch it all in one go. So I put it on Monday night and I watched the first 2 and I enjoyed them so much. I thought, I think I might just watch the next one and maybe I'll leave the other one until tomorrow. Watch the 3rd part. And I thought, I'm really enjoying this. I may as well finish up. So I ended up watching it all in one go, which really surprised me because I haven't watched it for ages. It's like you said, I kind of forget about it. It's not one that I really go to if I'm in the mood to watch a Doctor Who. It is a strange story. I'm still not 100% sure what was going on half the time. But it really drew me in. I really did enjoy it. I thought it was bizarre, strange. I thought the performances in it were fantastic. I was just so surprised how good the cast were in it. Matthew Waterhouse was cracking me up when he was being he's like a naughty schoolboy in this. I just love how cross Davison gets with him. Like when he batters the wind chime, he's like, Adric, and he sort of chases him across the set. And when Adric gets in the machine and the Doctor's, for goodness sake, and he's getting all cross with him. And I was in stitches in bits, probably unintentionally. But I just thought the performances were good. I thought it was really creepy in places. And I just got thoroughly engrossed in it. Even though I couldn't understand what was going on half the time, I just really enjoyed it. So, that's me. It's getting a thumbs up, this one. I'm really glad that I rewatched it. I saw a lot more in it than I was expecting. Got a lot more from it than I was expecting. So yeah, good. It was good. Now then, genuinely, this could go either way, and I've no idea because I'm thinking of 4 to Doomsday when I thought you were going to slay it and you loved it. So this could go either way. What do you reckon to it?
So I don't even know what I think about it.
Oh no!
To be honest with you, I literally am 50-50 on it. I've got splinters on my arse on this one. I'm sitting on the fence big time. Okay. I think it's part of me. Well, half of me thinks, is this a stroke of just genius? Is this episode or this story just brilliant? Like there are some moments where I'm watching it, I'm thinking, for a show with 0 budget and very, because you and I and lots of other people have watched so many behind the scenes, and we know and we've read about everything that goes on. For a show with no budget and all that stuff that was going on, how did they manage to come up with something so brilliant? And then the other half of me thinks it's just bloody awful.
Yeah,
like so I know I experienced that as I was watching each of the 4 parts. I'll be honest with you, as I was watching through each one, I was literally up here at some points thinking, this is really good, this is great, and then within a minute I'm like, this is awful. This is absolutely dreadful. And then within 2 minutes, I'm like, this is amazing. This is great. So I'll be honest with you, mate. I've wrote down 4 different scores, which we'll get on to later. And they will probably change as we go through it and review it. So I think this is more, out of all the classic Who that we've reviewed, I think this is up there with one of my most, for me personally, divided opinion on it. I think I'm leaning towards this being just brilliant. I'm leaning towards that.
It surprised me how much I enjoyed it. It really did. I wasn't expecting a lot from it, I'll be honest with you. And it's weird because it's all set in that forest and could have, if they'd had the budget, could have quite easily been shot in any forest. They could have gone to Black Park and shot. It's weird because I think it's one of the few stories that somehow benefits from being a set. It makes it feel more classic Who, and I don't know. I was thinking if this had been filmed, because it's all very wordy, isn't it? There's a lot of talking and stuff. And I was thinking if this had been shot in a real forest on film, somehow it might have been more boring. I can't really explain it, but I think if it was just sort of all this talking going on a real thing, somehow having it in that set, it just feels a bit otherworldly and a bit sort of like a play, and it just, I don't know, somehow makes it more interesting, which I don't think applies to a lot of stories that I can think of, because it's not an amazing set, but considering everything back in this sort of era of Doctor Who, if they had an inside set, it was generally overlit and bright and everything, they've sort of managed to get the lighting pretty good. I mean, it doesn't look like a real forest by any means, but it looks interesting.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. Even the caves and there's all this sort of voodoo stuff going on. Now, I don't know. I just think this is one of those, when you've talked about in the past, Classic Who having this charm about it. This, for me, is one of them. Like, even the big old snake at the end, which people hate. I was sat there thinking, yeah, it looks dreadful, but I love it. I think it's the effort that's gone into that blimmin' snake. They must have spent hours trying to make it. And it looks dreadful, but there's sort of something about the fact that they've made this physical prop and like obviously got wires moving it around, and the effort they've gone to try and create this effect. It just all added it to me. I just thought, wow, I'm loving it. But I mean, I'm not saying it's perfect, because it is a confusing story, and I think this is not one that you would put on if you were going to try and introduce someone to Doctor Who. But I just loved how the cast were taking it so seriously. Everyone seems to have sort of found their character and they stick to that character. And, even old Sanders, played by Richard Todd, he's playing it a little bit pompous and maybe just a tad over the top, but he's sort of created that character. And for me, it totally works. I don't sort of sit there thinking, he's a bit over the top. And clearly Matthew Waterhouse did, because famously he gave him a few little acting tips while the cameras were being set up or something.
Yeah, that's
although he denies
it,
myth, Davison always says he did do it. He went over and didn't he? Said to Richard Todd, you want to be doing it like this, mate.
That's a myth, though.
No, Davison says it's. They all swear it's the only person who denies it is Matthew Waterhouse.
Oh,
everyone else says. Everyone else, especially Janet Fielding, she's like, yeah, it happened.
I've only read one thing on that in the past, and that was when apparently Matthew Waterhouse said to him, the secret of acting is to not look at the camera.
Something like that, yeah.
But then apparently that was what you didn't see on what the people don't tell you is that was just a bit of a joke, because one of them had looked directly into the camera on the previous take.
Oh, right, yeah.
So I always viewed that was just a myth, but is that a thing then?
I don't know. On the commentary, they're all. I remember. I didn't listen to the commentary this time around, but I remember it from the first time I watched it. On the, commentary on the DVD, they're all winding him up about it, and he's like, "No, it didn't. I didn't." They're like, "Yes, you did. You went over and you were telling him how to act, and the man's been acting since 1930." And you're they're giving him a bit of stick on the commentary, from what I remember.
Oh, I remember that, but I always thought that was just in jest. I thought they were just winding him up, but maybe that's true then. Maybe,
yeah.
Crikey.
We'll never know for true, but I mean, I think out of all the cast, probably Matthew's possibly the worst. Thing is, I do love Adric. I do. It's just so bad that I love it. It's one of those, like a guilty pleasure to me, Adric, because he's that scene when he's like trying to pretend that he's playing along. He's like, yes, I want to help you, and it's like, yeah, we know you're doing it. We know you're not really trying to help him, but he does it in such a way that it's he's trying to make it obvious to the viewer that he's not really turned bad, and his acting is not the best in this, but he cracks me up when he's like being this mischievous. All the stuff with him and Davison when they're doing the coin trick, and Adric's like, they're getting all cross with each other, and I was thinking, this is great. I'm loving all this stuff between those two. It kind of makes you wish he'd stayed on just a little bit longer, because I love the Fifth Doctor and Adric together. I think they make for a really. It's like a dad and child
sometimes
relationship. It really. I find it hilarious. But yeah.
Yeah, Adric's a funny old one, isn't he?
He is funny. I just keep thinking, every time I watch an Adric story, because what happens to him, it's like I can't help but feel a bit sorry for him. Actually, I just keep thinking, oh dear, in like just a couple of episodes' time, you'll be blown to bits, and and you'll be forgotten by the next story, and it's kind of sad, really. But
crikey! Talking of the next story, I think the next one along you'd probably recommend to people to get into Davison. The Visitations are good.
Visitation.
That's not too. That's not too difficult to follow along story-wise.
It's a good story.
Whereas this one, as you've said, there were moments where I thought, I'm not sure what I'm watching at this point. It was it was a good combination. The one thing that I couldn't, it was only on a second or third viewing that I thought, okay, I think I know what's going on. It was mainly because I got the whole, so that the story plot, when you look at it from above, is relatively simple. Is essentially you've got the humans who want to colonize, you've got the Kinder, and then you've got the Mara, which is this sort of evil presence that's ready to sort of cause mayhem and take over the planet essentially. So that you kind of get what's going on. But the things that I couldn't get my head around initially was, who was the character? So we had like the older gentleman who was like he came across as a bit of like a typical army major sort of guy.
Yeah, Sanders,
Richard Todd, wasn't it? The younger guy, was that Todd? No, that was Hindle, wasn't it? Simon Rouse. Yeah.
So yeah, Hindel's the one who's going crackers.
That's right. Yeah. So that's the bit that I couldn't get my head around initially. I thought, why is he going so beep crazy? I just couldn't understand why, because the way they set the story up is that he's just not getting along with Sanders. The two of them they just clash. They don't get along. You've got Sanders, who's very old school, and then you've got Hindle, who's very like up and coming, by the book kind of thing. So I just thought their personalities clash. But then you slowly see Hindle descend into just complete madness, and hysteria at some point. So I thought, why is he? Why is he going so crackers throughout the story? But then after you've watched it a couple of times, you realise that the reason why he's going so mental is because he's probably got a combination of cabin fever and paranoia, because he's convinced, isn't he, that the trees outside are hostile, and they'll because the other people that they've sent out on expeditions that we don't see, because we pick up the story at that point. So previous to the Doctor arriving, I think there were two people prior to that who went out and never returned. So he just thinks that the forest and the trees are crazy and stuff. And the other thing that I didn't get my head around was why the Kinder suddenly obey him. So they've got two of the Kinder people locked up in a cage, and then all of a sudden he looks at one of them in the mirror after he throws a little tantrum, breaking up, he throws everything in the lab. He looks at one of them in the mirror, but they're completely motionless and expressionless, and then all of a sudden he can control them and they do what he says. And so
I think the reason for that, I can explain the last bit. I think they think, because they're a bit primitive or whatever, they think he's trapped them in the mirror. I think there's like a throwaway line where it says that they think their image is trapped in the mirror. I have complete control over them or something. So I think that's why. As for his, I don't know about the cabin fever. I mean, I don't know if it's explicitly explained why, because I know what you mean. He really sort of turns when he gets the sort of when he gets the base to himself, doesn't he? Yeah. He's like, I've got control over life and death. He's suddenly like he's gone completely loopy. I just loved all that though, because he just seems to get crazier and crazier and more unhinged, and I really liked how it built up over the story. And the thing of him cutting out figures out of cardboard is a really simple idea, but then there's that bit again. I know it's not supposed to be funny, but I couldn't help but laugh. But there's that bit, I think, is it the Doctor that accidentally treads on one, and he's like, "What are you doing?" Oh, sorry about that. He's like, "You can't mend people," and I just loved it. I thought, God, it's such a simple idea, but he's deranged. He's completely lost the plot. And Davison, to me, really sells that. So this is Davison's first season, isn't it? Must be.
Yeah, 19.
Davison really looks like, I wouldn't say terrified of him, but he looks proper like every time Hindle's kicking off, Davison does look a bit like, no, I've got to tread a bit carefully here. I don't know, the sort of interaction between the two really does sell the fact that he's scared of him.
He does look terrified of him.
He does, yeah, especially
points,
that scene when he's pointing the gun at him and Davison's a bit like, this guy's lost it. And actually, I know we normally save the Doctor to the last, but I just want to say this while I remember, really. A lot of the time, people who don't particularly warm to Davison's Doctor, they call him the fluffy fifth, and he's lightweight, he's beige, and all this. I watching Davison's performance in this, I think he's fantastic. There's a lot more to Davison, I think, the more you watch him.
There is. Yep.
He's actually very tetchy in this, in places, which I loved, because it reminded me. I think he's channeling a bit of the First Doctor in this. I don't know. Did you think that?
Yes.
He's quite sort of short-tempered and telling people, look, just go and do that. And he's very direct and stuff like that. And then he softens and has these really charming moments. So, but I just thought his performance in this was really, really good and quite layered. It didn't feel like. Like I said, a lot of the time that he gets described as being a bit bland. I thought, no, not at all. You watch him in this. It's his first season. He's still finding his feet, but he's very much hitting the mark for me as the Doctor in this. He's in control. The bits when he's with Todd, the interaction between those two and all this stuff, and the way he's working things out and telling people what they need to do and getting cross with Adric and all that sort of stuff. He's I just thought Davison gives a really layered performance in this, and I think if anyone's not too keen on his Doctor, whatever, maybe this isn't the one to watch. But in terms of his performance rather than story, I think he's very good in this. Yeah,
I agree. No, he is. Yeah. Considering this is his first series as well.
Yeah,
he does. He does take on and he's quite. Versatile, I suppose, throughout the story as well. There are moments where he is having a good time. You can see if anyone's watched any of the behind the scenes stuff for Davison over the years, you'll know that he just wasn't fond of a few stories for his era that were written for him, and there were a few times where he thought, "What the hell am I doing? What has my life come to?" Whereas with this one, whether or not he felt this, I'm not sure whether he felt this was a great story or if he still thinks that or not a great story. I'm not sure. But there are times when you can see that he is sort of on form, as you say. He is really cracking on as the Doctor. And there are times where he's quite, like you said, heart-gnawed, like when he's snapping at Adric a couple of times and he's quite short. And there are other times where he's having a good old laugh, like when they first meet the Mara. When they meet the Kinder tribe, if you like, for the first proper time, there's that funny little scene where they've got like one of the Kinder is like a kind of court jester sort of character, like a comedian sort of.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's having a laugh and a joke, and then the Doctor does the coin trick that Adric had taught him earlier on, and when he does that, and they all start laughing, and he's into it. He's having a good old laugh, and. So you can see in scenes like that, he's genuinely, you can tell that he's into it, as the Doctor and stuff. So I think you're right. A lot of people that say that he's often been referred to as the most human of the classic Doctors.
Yeah.
In terms of how he comes across, and like you said, a bit light and fluffy at times and stuff. But the more you watch his performances, and I think this story as a whole as well, I'm 99% sure that if you've only ever seen this the one time, your opinion will definitely change on a rewatch or multiple watches. It definitely has for me. I think this is the third time that I've seen it, and my opinion is now wildly different to the first time I watched it. The first time I watched it, I was even more clueless. I was like, I have no idea what I've just watched. I've literally, because let's move on to some of the scenes that we see, which are very, very, they look very experimental from a
very
TV
trippy.
making point of view, which is the whole Tegan and the Mara being trapped in this kind of nightmare realm. It looks like it's very where she sort of falls into this trance, if you like, from these wind chimes and whatnot.
Yeah,
and she, the way they've done it, it's actually very creepy. So the first people that she comes across are this old weird couple playing drafts or chess, I think.
Yeah.
And the way that their makeup's been done, they just look like really like something out of a nightmare. It's completely like, it is very trippy, but it's also quite creepy as well. And the guy that they got to play, was it the trickster? I think the
like the court jester guy.
Lee Corns, I think his name was. He plays that very creepy, like the way he talks and the way he delivers his lines and his eyes and stuff. But the way that whole bit was lit, it was just essentially a matte black background with just one big bright studio light, and then they experimented with like different camera effects and whatnot. So you can absolutely tell that this is from an era of people from the 70s making television. But what do you think to the whole Mara Tegan thing? Because they actually kick off a bit of a loose kind of relationship, I guess, between Tegan and the Mara as we go through her era, because we see this whole Tegan being involved with this again, don't we, later on in Snake Dance and
that's right, yeah,
stuff like that. So what do you think to the whole Mara element of this? Because it was a very different vibe to the rest of the story.
I love the way it was done. It's so incredibly simple but effective, isn't it? Just black room, but I guess I don't know what makeup they've put on those poor actors to make them glow like that, or if they've just shone a big light on them, or I don't know how they've done it, but to make them sort of look ghostly with just a black backdrop, it sounds really, well, it is really simple, but it's so effective and it's so creepy. And I'm thinking, so what was this, 1982?
Yeah.
That effect when the camera zooms into Tegan's eye must have looked fantastic back then, mustn't it? That must have been, because even now, okay, it's a quantum effect or whatever it is, but even now I'm thinking, oh, what a great way to go into her mind. It goes to zoom straight into her eye in this weird sort of staggered visual effect that they use. I mean, I think that must have looked brilliant back in the day, and I think it still works really well now. But yeah, I love that whole trippy reality that we go into. It's creepy as hell. The performances from the actors is brilliant because they are just so weird and strange, and they play it so well. Tegan looks absolutely petrified. Janet Fielding's playing it really well. I hear that she loved doing this because it gave her something different to do rather than just having to ask the questions all the time. Apparently she loved this story in terms of giving Tegan something different to do. I think you can tell that she really embraces like being freaked out and doing we get like a screen of multiple Tegans, don't we? It's weird because I did watch this when I was a kid when it first aired. So I would have been, 8 maybe or 6. I don't know what we were 8. But so the only thing I can remember from watching this as a kid, because it freaked the hell out of me. I mean, I wouldn't have understood it. I wouldn't have understood the story at all. But it's the bit with the snake crossing from arm to arm. Yeah. I remember that's the only thing. If you'd say to what do you remember about Kindred as a kid, that's the only bit I remember. It really, really freaked me out. And yet you watch it now, and it's the effect isn't particularly good, but it still has that effect on me. It still makes me quiver. It's still creepy as hell. I just love the idea of it, like this tattoo moving from one arm to the next of a snake, and it's just the idea behind it. I think is so unusual. It's just really creepy, and you put that with the music as well. I have to say, I think is it Peter Howe? I think the music's great in this. Very 80s, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think Peter Howe's score in this is really creepy. There are scenes of the mirrors and all that stuff. He's sort of using these weird sounds and, again, just adds to the whole atmosphere. I think the music really does help to make this quite scary as well. But yeah, I love that whole sequence, mate. I really thought it worked incredibly well, especially when we come back to Tegan, after she's been into that world, and we come back and she's sort of got this almost like Dana voice from Ghostbusters, isn't she? A little bit. She's like,
yeah, that was cool. That's creepy.
Yeah, it was. I don't know what they've done to make her look because the makeup's quite subtle, but somehow they've made her look slightly different. And I don't know what they've done to her, but it's very subtle, but it's just right.
It was the eyes and the teeth.
Eyes.
Yeah, because they put this kind of redness on the teeth. And they also like put these big dark circles around the eyes and stuff. But her performance is pretty good. Do you know what? When she was inside that world, that realm, whatever, I wasn't too convinced with her acting for that. For some reason, I just thought, it wasn't that strong. But when she came out and she was playing the Mara, and you know, when she's got one of them up, I think she's like reaching out and she's got one round the throat. You know, the guy that ends up becoming the... she's really creepy and she plays that really well, I thought.
Yeah.
When she's, you know, back in the real world, quote unquote, fourth wall stuff. But yeah, that whole effect of the whole Mara thing was really well done. I just found it just very simple. It was a very simple effect because they could have gone to town on that. They could have tried to make it very otherworldly and all that stuff. But the fact that it's just all black, like there's not even any it's not even set in space, is it? There's no stars.
No.
And it's really, and when the other Tegan turns up and there's two of them, the camera work is really well done. There's a bit where their hands cross over, and normally that fudges the effect because you have literally just two lots of film that you sort of merge and you sort of fudge the join down the middle. But even when their hands overlap, you don't see the join, and it's really well done. And I'm not sure if that's an effect of, because I watched this from the Blu-ray box set to see the season 19 collection.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if they tidied that up and tweaked it. I can't remember from when I watched it from the old DVD days, but
I don't know.
But yeah, it looks really good. Yeah.
I've got to give credit to Peter Grimwade, actually, the director, because although this is a slightly confusing story, to say the least, I do think it's directed well. I think if this had been in the hands of someone who perhaps, because the thing is with Peter Grimwade is he was apparently quite a difficult director because he was quite specific. He liked to get everything right. He wasn't just one of those of shoot and point and that'll have to do. He was quite a stickler for detail, because even the scene, you know, the zoom in of Tegan's eye, he wasn't even happy with that because she blinked. He's like, oh, you blinked. But I mean, who noticed?
I did.
You know, he was that. Yeah. Oh, well, I did as well, actually. But yeah. But you know what I mean? It doesn't really make any difference. But even stuff like that annoyed him. He liked to get it right. So I think he's taken a very difficult story to direct, basically. And I think he's done a very good job of it. I think if it had been in the hands of a couple of other directors that I can think of, which I won't name, but perhaps who were a little bit more basic in terms of their direction, I think this could have been a mess. I think this could have just been a complete a story that you don't understand and wasn't engaging. And you know what I mean? He does keep it moving, and there are some shots that are very quickly edited, and I think it's I think Peter Grimwade did a very good job with this. I have to say that. I know he was perhaps difficult to work with, and I think the cast found him quite a bit of a tyrant on this particular story, but I think he got good results. And I think we've said that about another story he did, but I can't think what it was.
Yeah,
I think I've said that before about him.
Yeah, we did. And
I only know this from watching the commentaries and the makings of, you know, this is not something I've just plucked out the air. I always watch the extras on these, and they say that. They said, you know, he was a good director, but he was quite tough, and he knew what he wanted to do. And I think, as I said, when you get a story like this, you kind of need someone like him in charge of it. Otherwise, it's just going to become a boring, complete disaster, I think. So I think, it has to be a bit of credit given to him for that.
Absolutely, yeah, I agree. And he was quite keen as well to try and push some certain things into this episode and into Doctor Who. So that effect that you mentioned with the zoom in on Tegan's eye and some other bits, that's all done with this thing called the Quantel effects, the Quantel paint box system.
That's it, yeah.
Which was which I remember reading up ages ago on this. It was really cool at the time. So it was a really good way of essentially painting in effects it was very difficult to do pre the Quantel thing that the BBC had the sort of funded, I suppose. But Doctor Who was an early adopter of all that stuff. And if you, I'll go into it now, but if anyone that's interested, if you do a search for Quantel Paintbox, it was a system that they used, and things like the Leisure Hive and Mind Warp and stuff. They all made really heavy use of, like, there's a scene in Mind Warp where if you look at the original footage, the original plate, you've just got the TARDIS, with the bottom bit of it surrounded by some sea. And then when you look at the Quantel bit over the top, it's got all the seas are bright pink and they've got a big planet in the background and it all looks very, very cool. So I think he really wanted to push some of that stuff as well. And I think that actually, like you said, potentially a detriment to what was going on the set day to day, because he like you said, he's very, very, in his mind's eye, really wanted to see things a certain way and very specific on things. So, but then again, you have to, sometimes, I know it's at the time for actors working with people like that, it probably sucks, but occasionally you need people like that to, even if other people don't like it, you need someone like that to just push these things through and push things. Otherwise, you just end up with everybody saying yes to each other. Yes, that's great. That's great. So when you have someone like that, that's like, no, not happy with that. We need to go back and do it again or do something. And you definitely need that.
It shows, to me, it shows passion for what they're doing as well, because let's face it, that effect, it doesn't add anything to story. If he'd have wanted, he could have just said, right now we just zoom in on Janet's face. Could have just been in a zoom in on the face. He didn't need to go to all that trouble of getting this effect of going into the eye, but he wants to make good television. And as we've always said with Classic Who, we know that they had no time to do any of this stuff. So anything like this, which was time consuming, the only reason for possibly wanting to even attempt it is because you've got passion behind what you're doing. So, that's why I say I do give him credit, because scenes like that, which would have been very time consuming, he had to obviously book in that quantum, what's it called? Quantel
paint box.
Yeah, he'd have had to have booked in the time slot to use it, believe it or not, back then, and all that sort of stuff. So it just to me shows that extra bit of effort in wanting to make Doctor Who as good as it could possibly be back in the day.
Yeah. And he also he was also really miffed as well, because when they were doing their typical 5-day Monday to Friday studio stuff that they had at the BBC, which is 9 to 5, I suppose, which sounds about right for back in the day. He was really miffed because they had a load of problems with cameras and lights. And so back in Classic Who and just television at the time, you probably noticed that whenever there's a bright light on the screen, it leaves a trail, like a phosphorus trail across the screen or camera glare, whatever. So apparently they had just a ton of that was just in loads of shots because of the way it was lit and shot and stuff. So that really miffed them, because he was like, look, I've got all these cool camera shots that I want to do, and I want to use this Quantel stuff, but we're having to go back and like reshoot a load of stuff and redo things because of all this camera glare and stuff. And that actually led to the snake puppet at the end, because he really wanted to do a much better effect at the end, but they couldn't because they'd run out of time and stuff because of all of this camera glare stuff. And that's what actually pushed them to do a 6-day recording block.
Oh, right.
So because he complained so much, and he said, like, everyone's turning the lights off on a Friday. There's so much to do. We're going to be behind and all that lot. I think he pushed for, and some, a bunch of other people at the BBC was like, yeah, he's right. Because of all of these problems, we've got no money basically for decent equipment. We're running out of time, like all the time.
Yeah.
So
actually, sorry, you've just reminded me as well. I'd forgotten about this. So there are some scenes in part 4 which were reshoots, which were done like months later, or they were filming another story. And I can't quite remember the reason for this. I think, if I'm right in saying, parts 1 and 2 were overrunning, so stuff was cut, but then when they put them together, there wasn't, part 4 was underrunning or something. I can't remember. There was a reason for it. So if you watch, and I've never known this until yesterday when I was watching it with the text commentary on the DVD. So there are scenes, there's a bit with Nyssa and Adric, which actually, now I know that it's padding, I can sort of tell they're sort of having a bit of an argument over the bomb, and the set, it's like a really rehashed set. And then the Doctor comes in, and I think the hairstyles are ever so slightly different. So Adric looks a bit different. And so they were shot like months later while they were recording a totally different story, and then re-edited in. And also the scenes with the big snake and the mirror. So they decided then I think the writer wanted more explanation of what was actually going on. So all the shots where the Doctor's talking, holding up the mirrors, are re-shot, like extra scenes they've added in. And you can sort of tell because the back of the mirror's slightly different. I think it's just they've just quickly knocked up some fake backdrop mirrors for them to hold. And so, but again, I've never noticed any of this is different or doesn't fit in properly. But it's just really interesting to think, oh, so those quick 10 to 20 second scenes have filmed months later and put back in just to make the episode better and stuff like that. So again, yeah, it's fascinating when you start looking at the behind the scenes stuff, the production of it.
Yeah. And there was other, like little things like that as well. Things that you'd probably nowadays, if you were filming it, you would watch I think they're called dailies, where the director and producers and stuff can watch literally as soon as it's been filmed, they can watch a rough thing and they can pick out mistakes and stuff. Because there's a bit at the end where the mirrors are surrounding the snake, the Mara. And you can hear the Doctor a couple of times shouting, "Close up these gaps! Close up these! There should be no gaps." But then when you see the wide shot, there's a massive gap of literally the space of one mirror, because that's where the camera dolly had to go in and out of the circle to film the snake in the middle. Yeah. But things like that, I think, also bugged Peter Grimwade as well, because he was very, I don't know, I think he just wanted it to be as perfect as he could. But he was just frustrated that there was no time to fix those things or to go back and do it. So, but yeah, there's loads of little things like that. Loads of little, like simple things, like when Adric and Nyssa are playing drafts at the beginning outside the TARDIS, the drafts board is the wrong way round.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. So if they're going to play it properly, they need to switch the board round. And
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, and there's also things like when. I think in about every other scene, I would say, there's a bit where the cameraman either trips over or somebody bumps into the camera, because there's camera wobble all over the place. Camera's shaking, yeah.
I know there's a bit when, what's the guy's name that was in the wicker, he's in the sort of wicker basket thing.
Yeah.
The wicker prison or whatever it is. There's a bit where there's an explosion and it sets on fire. And it said, is it Adrian Mills? Is that his name? Adrian Mills, yeah. So you can, I didn't notice this, but it says it in the text and I noticed it. So if you watch that carefully, there's obviously like an effect explosion set off on the set. And the thing that Adrian Mills is in, that wicker basket, actually catches fire. So he's trying to keep going. He's like, oh, I must keep going. I mustn't stop. But actually, so he's holding the wicker thing up so that it's off the floor, because the bottom of it's on fire. It's just like, if I could just get through this scene before this thing actually catches light to the rest of the set. So if you watch that bit when he falls backward, I thought he was just trying to stand up. I didn't realize he was actually holding it, trying to keep this flame off of the studio floor so the whole set doesn't go up. But yeah, little bits like that as well. Just when you know they're there, it's quite good to look out for.
Yeah, it's funny.
But again, you can just imagine him like shouting cut and rushing in with a fire extinguisher. Well done, Adrian. Well done for keeping going there, son. Yeah, well done. The set lives to see another day.
There's also the scene where when the Doctor's it's one of those scenes that we mentioned where the Doctor's quite concerned about Hindle.
Yeah.
It's that scene where he starts really crapping himself about the plants and the trees outside, and the Doctor's looking quite concerned. This whole time that this conversation's going on, there's a crew member in the doorway on camera.
Oh, is there?
Yeah. There's just somebody leaning against the doorway in a pair of jeans and a t-shirt.
I didn't notice that. So I'll have to go back and have a look at that.
Yeah, it just cuts to him very quickly, but it happens like 2 or 3 times when they're having that talk about the trees being, the Doctor's like, why do you think the trees are hostile? And then as just going on. At first I thought, oh, it's Adric in the doorway or someone, but no, then you think, hold on, Adric's over there, so who's that then? And it's just
he's wearing jeans.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll have to have a look. I didn't notice that.
Funny old classic Who, man.
See, I love looking at stuff like that. I think early on when they were releasing some of the videos or maybe DVDs, they started going a bit too perfectionist. I'd say the restoration team, who do a brilliant job, by the way, but I think they started to remove like camera booms and stuff. They would digitally take them out. And then I think the fans were like, no, we love stuff like that. So they sort of started leaving them in. And I was thinking, yeah, leave them in, because I love to spot things like that. You know, don't start changing too much. I love that they freshen up the picture and they do an amazing job. But yeah, leave stuff like that in, because I love looking out for it.
On the Blu-ray set for this one,
yeah,
there's 2 versions of the audio track as well.
Mm-hmm.
So they've got a new 5.1 surround track, which is kind of cool. But I must admit, they've got this twin mono sound on there, and that just sounds so good. I mean, the 5.1 is great because it's a little bit more immersive.
Yeah.
But in terms of just how well they've cleaned up the audio, so the default audio track, if you were watching it on that Blu-ray, you'd have to go into the menu to select the 5.1. But there's that, they've got these, I think they've called it a twin mono track or something like that. But the way they've cleaned it up, it sounded great when I watched it yesterday.
Oh, I can imagine.
Really
I mean, yeah, I don't know, because my TV's a bit basic. I don't know if I'd be able to notice it too much, but I did think the soundtrack to this sounded brilliant. I can imagine it in like you said, if it was all in, what did you call it? Not 5.1, but the
5.1 surround.
5.1, yeah, but it does sound amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, but I prefer the mono track though. It just seems to have a bit more of a, because when you watch the 5.1, especially if you put it on accidentally on a stereo TV, the vocal track's really low, but the music and the explosions, everything's really loud. So it was great though.
I had that on the blooming Star Trek original series set I've got. So the default setting whenever you press play is always 5.1, and you can't hear it. So you turn it right up to hear what they're saying, and then blooming Spock blows a rock up and your television nearly explodes. It's like, oh, for goodness sake. So I always had to remember to change it to mono before watching any episode on that. So I know exactly what you mean.
There's another audio track. What did you think? What did you think to the nutty old witch person, Karuna? She was a very interesting.
Corona. It was like, Corona, oh no, Corona.
Yeah, so Karuna. And so there was a bit of a double act with, apparently, this is one other thing that's confused me until I watched it the second time, but apparently the younger girl, Panna, the character name was, and Karuna, they end up...
Hang on, I made this mistake. I think Karuna's the girl, it's the young girl, isn't it?
Oh, is she? Yeah, you're probably right.
Yes, I made exactly the same mistake yesterday. I was like, oh, that old woman's called Corona. I was like, oh, no, she's not. It's the girl, I think.
Hold on. Mary Morris. Yeah, Mary Morris is the older woman.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah, Panna. Sorry. Yeah, you are right. And then Sarah Prince is Karuna. What did you think to that? Because she's a very, very... they cast her brilliantly. She does look like this kind of ancient old... I keep using the word witch, and she's not a witch, is she? She's just like this old sort of soothsayer kind of character. But there was like a sort of mini storyline that ran through with those two as well. She seemed to be like, not like the leader of this Kinder tribe, but like the person you go to when you've got a cold, or like the person if you need some wisdom, or the person if, wisdom, she seemed to be channeling this whole sort of telepathicness link between the Kinder, but she was like the vocalness towards the Doctor and like outsiders, I suppose. But a really interesting character. But she didn't die in the end, did she? She just went into, or did she die? And then
that's a strange cliffhanger, isn't it? Because I thought, so there's a brilliant line just before that when the Doctor's like, it's the end of everything or something like that, and everything blows up, and you think, oh, that's the episode ending, but no. Then they go up and run up and they're like,
oh, she is dead.
Panna's dead. And then it ends. I thought, oh, that's strange. I would have ended it with it's the end of everything and the explosion. But I think she comes back alive, doesn't she?
Well, she doesn't. She goes into a kind of trance, doesn't she? She goes into a trance where she's kind of trying to figure out what's going on with what's going to happen with the Mara. And then they go off and do something. They come back into the cave, and as she's coming out of the trance, I think she dies then. That's the cliffhanger to episode 3, isn't it? And then what we learn in the last part is that Karuna is she takes on the spirit or the soul of Panna. She sort of inhabits Karuna in a sort of weird way. But there's like a mini storyline with those two because I think Karuna as well, she was the one that communicates with, what's the guy's name? Aris. He's the one that ends up being the possessed Mara dude, isn't he?
Yeah.
The over the top. Let's speak about Aris then, Adrian Mills. There was a couple of times, mate, where it was like he was fresh out of drama school.
I think he was, though, wasn't he? Was it? Because he's like a presenter, really, isn't it? It's one of these things that Doctor Who does a lot, where they get in someone who's not really an actor to be in the show.
He's a radio presenter, isn't he? I think.
I was going to say, he used to do That's Life. Do you
That's
remember
Life, that's it, yeah.
That's Life. Yeah. I could see he was trying very hard. That's probably, that's about the best the most complimentary I can be, really. I mean, I've seen worse. I've seen a lot worse, but and kudos to him for saving the set from burning down. He wasn't the best. He wasn't the most experienced actor. Maybe Matthew Waterhouse should have, just took him to one side and give him a couple of pointers. Maybe, I don't know, but God, he wasn't dreadful. He was all right.
If you probably had, if you had £1. If you went back and interviewed every single person that's alive today that was either starring in or working in Doctor Who when Adric was there, if you had £1, if you interviewed them honestly, and every time somebody said, "I wanted to kill Matthew Waterhouse," or "I wanted to slap Matthew Waterhouse," you'd probably pay your mortgage off, wouldn't you?
Harsh.
You would though, wouldn't you? You hear so many stories of Matthew. I mean, bless Matthew Waterhouse. Remember, we had a great crack, didn't we, when he turned up at the one of the BFI showings.
Oh,
he
was brilliant.
He was on form, wasn't he? He was on fire. And
he was on something.
Yeah, and he's really likable when he's on stage and he's being interviewed, or if you're chatting to him about the glory days, I suppose. He's really likable because he's got loads of great stories and anecdotes about that time. And even though he gets a bit twitchy when he keeps getting asked about Tom, so did Tom really hate you? Did Tom want to kill you? Did Tom want to slap you? All that stuff. He gets a bit twitchy about that. But otherwise, I imagine that back in the day, I mean, come on, there's a reason why so many people just don't take to Adric as a character. There's a reason why so many people say it.
I know. The thing is, I agree with you. I mean, I loved Adric as a kid because I was around about the same age as it. Well, I would have been younger, but he was sort of the young character that that I sort of liked in the show at the time. But yeah, I mean, Matthew Waterhouse is a real character in real life. I love it when we get him on like extras for DVDs and stuff because, like you said, he's so entertaining. He says what he thinks, be it right or wrong. His book Blue Box Boy slates Tom and Lala. So he's not afraid to speak his mind, but he is entertaining, and also he's such a massive fan of the show. I mean, that's the thing. When he joined the cast, he probably knew more about Doctor Who than any of them, and he wasn't afraid to tell them. And you've got to love that.
Absolutely, mate. Matthew Waterhouse is such a likable guy, but I don't know. There's just something about when he was obviously very younger, starring as Adric. I don't know. There's just.
Have you watched I feel like watching A Weekend with Waterhouse now. That extra.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's great in that with Toby Haydock. Yeah. Brilliant.
He's a cool guy. Maybe we'll invite him on, see if we can chew the fat on his era.
Chew the fat.
He's probably first of all, he's like, you do what? What, the podcast? No. But second of all, he's probably answered these questions a billion times.
I was going to say that would be the thing. He's probably Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, to be fair, there are a couple of stories where Adric is not too bad, to be honest with you. And one of them is Earthshock. I really like Adric in Earthshock.
Yeah.
Not for the reason of him coming to his demise, but I just think he's really good. Really good in that one. But yeah,
he's good in Legopolis. Even though I know him and Tom had a fraught relationship, I think him and Tom were great together in Legopolis.
Yes, they do.
They do work well. I wish we got more stories with them together.
Yeah. But anyway, sorry, Panna and Karuna. That storyline was fairly good, and the way that Mary Morris plays Panna, because I think she's blind, or she's she plays that very well. So that was cool that we saw a little bit of an insight into the Kinder, because after all, the story is about those guys, and it's not meant to be about the humans colonizing or the Mara and stuff. It's meant to be about those guys, I suppose. But that's the other thing as well. We assume that the people there are from Earth.
It's not really stated, but I assume they are. Yeah,
I think so. Okay, and what did you think to? So we've spoken about the companions. They're fairly easy. Nissa's not even in it, to be honest with you.
No.
Jeanette Fielding, she's. I found her a bit up and down in this one.
Okay.
And Matthew Waterhouse, not one of his best, I would say. Not his best outing for me as Adric. Spoken about Davison. What about the other person in this then that was kind of like a companion, for the want of a better phrase, which was Todd, played by Nerys Hughes.
Todd.
I thought she was a good little character in this. I thought she was a good little assistance for the Doctor.
Yeah, very good. Worked really well with Davison as well. The scene when they're in the cage and he's like, open the box, and the Hindle's going mad, and he, open that box, and the Doctor's like, no, and she's terrified. She does a great scream at the end. It's a bit of a throwaway conclusion though in the next part though, isn't it? Because it's like it ends with the box opening, a big old scream, and then the next one it's like, there's nothing in there. So it's a bit of an anticlimactic conclusion to that brilliant cliffhanger. But Todd, great character. Nerys Hughes, again, although she did quite a lot of acting over the years, didn't she? She's best known for like the Liver Birds and things like that. But and she does pop up in Torchwood as well, doesn't she?
She does, yeah.
A few years later, forget the episode, Something Borrowed. I think
Something Borrowed. Yeah, we won't get to that until next year, but.
No, it's a bit of a way off. But yes, I thought she was very good. Again, just playing the part very, very straight, taking it seriously. And as I said, I thought she worked really well with Davison in their scenes. They just seemed to really click together, those two. So, yeah, nice little character, Todd.
Yeah, she was good. Yeah. And she's part of the club of classic Who actors that were in Z cars. So she's part of that.
Dixon Doc Green, maybe?
She was, yep.
Was she?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yep. So those two shows, if you were in Dixon of Doc Green or Z Cars from the 60s, there was a very good chance that one of your future acting jobs would be Doctor Who.
We'll see. I think she should have gone with Davison, joined him as another companion. It's like, yeah, come on, it's one big party in the TARDIS. Come on, let's have another companion. One of them might be leaving soon, but shh, come on, Todd. Come in the TARDIS.
Well, maybe the Chibbers should have adopted this for the current one. Just one episode where Yaz is like, I've got a headache, I'm going back to bed. All right, we'll see you in the next episode then. All good.
I was going to say, poor old Nyssa, she doesn't get any. Because I think the reason for that is this was written, she wasn't going to be a companion, was she? It was sort of decided late in the day, and this was already written.
Yeah.
So they were like, we haven't got anything for her to do in this one, so we'll just write her out of it, basically. Give her a headache. And so easy day on set for Sarah Sutton for this one.
Yeah, a lot of people assumed that, because one thing that tends to happen with classic Who back in the day, because it's shot over the best part of a year, is that some of the actors just literally went on holiday because they were knackered, which is really weird because you have these gaps in stories where people are just not there. It's really weird. And but no, that didn't happen. Like you said, with Nyssa and Sarah Sutton, this was all written before she was cast as a companion. So
I always find it strange as well, don't you, that they sort of how flippantly they decide a character will join the TARDIS team. So like you got Nyssa, they obviously decided quite late in the day, she's quite good, we'll keep her on. And then I'm thinking of Ace. She was sort of already recording Dragonfire, and they're like, she's pretty good actually, because they were trying to decide whether to keep Ace or Ray from Delta and the Bannerman, weren't they? They were going to keep one of those as the new companion, and it's like they'd sort of filming their episodes while they're still making that decision, and it's like, we'll keep Ace on, and she's already sort of, by the way, do you want to be the new companion? Even though she's like been commissioned for like one script, she's gone from that to suddenly being the companion in such a short space of time. It's kind of like, I kind of like it though. It's kind of like, we're making a show. She's pretty good. Let's keep her on. And the sort of planning back then was much more freestyle, wasn't it? It's just like, she's pretty good. Let's have her as a companion for a while. Cool. What are you doing next week? Can you film a whole series? Good. Let's have you. It's just so kept so loose. I love it.
Delta and the Bannermen.
Delta and the Bannermen.
If you want to hear Adam and I just... I think that's the only show where we've literally lost it for a good chunk of time, just belly up laughing so much we can't even talk.
I can't remember why now. It was something so silly, but
yeah. I think I can't even remember. It was ages ago we reviewed that. But
something to do with Mel,
yeah. It was Mel, yeah. Just go onto the website and search for Delta and the Bannermen. It's we just lose it. It's funny. Yes. What were we saying? Nissa, it was kind of clever that they wrote it that way, because some actors would have got the hump. Some actors would have been like, I don't think so. You're not going to sideline me for an entire story. I'm just going to pop up at the end as a cameo, or at the beginning and the end as a cameo. So she was cool. I think she did say, if memory serves, well, you can write that into the contract. I want to be paid for that.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
So she didn't just do it as a freebie. But
yeah, I wouldn't have thought so.
No. So we've spoken about, a little bit more then, just very quickly, about Sanders and Hindle, because Richard Todd, who played Sanders, was his best work in this episode was when he was loopy, because anyone back at this time, coming out of the 70s into the 80s still, even at this time, they would have had 100 actors who they could have picked to play that sort of very old English, proper army background kind of proper sort of sergeant majorish type of character. But what's great about Richard Todd is when he is crackers, when he comes back from being out in the forest and stuff, he's just brilliant. You can tell he's away with the fairies. He's brilliant.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think him and Hindle, they work really well together when they're both completely balmy. Like just being, you can see the sort of frustration of the Fifth Doctor being trapped in a room with him, because he's just like, oh God, these guys, they're nuts. I've got to get out of here or I'm going to end up going nuts myself. They're great together, aren't they? I think they're really good fun. I mean, they're just, Hindle's obviously taking it to 11. He's gone completely bonkers. But Sanders is just, he's just bordering, on the insane. But they are great together. It's really nice as well. I love this idea of, they open the box and they see the calm, and it's the box that takes them back to being normal again and calm. I thought that was a lovely idea. Yeah. But that's a great scene when they're both walking out together at the end, isn't it? And they're back to being normal again.
Yeah, well, it's a nice journey for them, really, because at the beginning of the story, you can tell that they clash.
Yes,
because I think Hindle wants to make a complaint in the log. I want to make it known.
He's got it, hasn't he? He's got it in his arm. He's ready.
Yeah, I was like, I want to make it known that I'm out, all the rest of it. And then at the end, when they're walking along, they're like, so we're going to have to document this, as part of manual section, whatever. And Sanders is like, well, I don't read the manual. It's, we don't have to worry about it. And they have a little smile and walk off. And so it's a good sort of full circle in terms of characters for those two, which is cool.
Apparently they wanted to do it arm in arm, and they wouldn't let them. In the rehearsal, they were like, we should be arm in arm and all buddy. And they were like, no.
It's a bit too chummy.
Too much, probably. But actually, that's the thing. Whenever we go to conventions or listen to interviews, I don't know if you've picked up on this, but the actors from this era of Doctor Who always talk about the importance of rehearsal and how they had 2 weeks before the show, they got to rehearse together, they got to know each other, so the interaction is always good. And I always think that really comes across when you get characters like Sanders and Todd. They've tried things out in rehearsal, got to know what works and doesn't work. And in conventions, when we hear them talk about that, they say about, I've heard this a few times now, they say about, when television's made totally differently now, they don't rehearse. It's just shoot. It's like script and shoot. You just literally look at your lines, say them, and it's, there's no sort of chance to get to really rehearse with your fellow actor or anything. And I wonder when that decision was made and why they do it like that. Because for me, so much of Classic Who, you can tell that the actors have, that chemistry has built through the rehearsal. I think little scenes come out of the rehearsals, that end up in the show. And I think, have you noticed that a couple of times, actors have spoke about this when we've been at conventions, they talk about how important rehearsal was and how they don't do it in television now. They just don't make television that way. And I wonder why.
Yeah, I think it's to do with money.
Could be
time and money. They do rehearse to a degree, So what you see now, so if you look at any of the special features on modern Doctor Who, you'll see that they have this thing called the table read through. So that gives them so they get all the actors who are going to be in that episode around the big old table at some office somewhere with a bunch of producers and visual effects people and costume designers, and they basically read through the script around the table. But that's not a rehearsal as such. That's just to see if there's any problems with the script that might come out of that. And then the only time they get to rehearse is on set during that day, where because everybody's setting up the set, dress, set designers and cameramen and lighting and all that stuff. While they're doing that, the director goes through, spends a little while going through what they're going to do, but they don't actually have a big... So I think what the classic guys used to get, like you said, is they get that nice block of time a week or 2 weeks before they start shooting, where they run through it all multiple times from beginning to end, a bit like a play. When you go and see a play or a theatre production, that's all been rehearsed loads and loads, so that by the time opening night comes around, everybody knows exactly where to go, what to say, all that stuff. So modern TV, I think, I think because actors must be paid, obviously, but their contract must be from X date to X date. And it's down to the people who manage the show to get them to do that within those dates, I suppose. So if they're going to add on another 2 weeks or rehearsal time before every time they do a show, that's a lot of money to pay actors.
Especially what they're paid now.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think on the day, the director says, right, you're going to come in, you're going to do that, you're going to do that. You already know your lines. I want the camera's going to be this way, so face that way and do that. So I think they run through it quite quickly.
Yeah, it's a much more clinical way of doing it, isn't it? I just think it's I don't know, I just love it when you see and hear on like the DVD extras about, you got like John Leeson running around on the floor at the Acton studio rehearsal room being K9, and you've got like Michael Wisher wearing a bandana across his eyes trying to get into character, Davros, and you think, oh, this is wonderful to think of them like going through the episode as a whole play. And they sort of would map out the floor in the rehearsal studio room, wouldn't they? And put like the door would be here, and they sort of worked it all out. Like you said, it's just a totally different era, isn't it? It's just a totally different way of doing it. But I always think that when I'm watching Classic Who, I just think you can tell that the actors have got to know each other a bit before. It feels less clinical. It feels much more natural in some ways. I think it does feel more like a play. I know what you mean, but there's the charm to that, I think. I just think it really comes across on screen.
And also it was easier for them to rehearse back in the day, because if you think about how most of classic Doctor Who is shot, it's generally a static set with them standing around. We don't get much in the way of fast-moving camera stuff, do we, in classic Who?
No, that's true.
The actual set and the way that the actors would stand and how their limited movement around the set was probably very easy to emulate in a rehearsal room a week before. So you almost got that one-on-one, like this is pretty much how it's going to be shot on the day. So we can mimic that. Whereas if you look at something like David Tennant hanging on wires in front of a green screen, he's ready to shoot his shot when he's diving from a ship to break through a glass window or a glass ceiling. That's probably very difficult to rehearse, I suppose. But
very true.
Yeah.
I just think all the little moments that you get out of rehearsal, like the scene of like the Doctor and Jamie when they accidentally hold hands in Tomb and they suddenly realise, oh, get off. All those little moments that they sort of tried in rehearsal, said, oh, that's quite funny, we'll do that. But then the other side of that is in rehearsals, you'd get like Tom Baker saying, hang on, I just want to put this line in here. And they're like, oh, Tom, just stick to the script. No, I'm putting this in. And, so, but it did bring out moments on screen, I think, that you wouldn't have got without the rehearsal, I think, in Classic Who. There are little moments that were just, they tried things, that works, that doesn't work. Let's try this. Oh, can we put this in?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think McCoy's commented on that a couple of times as well.
Yes.
Like, I think he said that a few things that came out of rehearsal were just solid gold, because without that rehearsal time, they wouldn't have had those wonderful little moments that they would have used in the recording of the actual show.
Yeah.
It would have been cool. It would have been great, dude, to go back, if we had a real TARDIS, to go back and watch all of those rehearsals.
Oh, yeah.
Wowzers, yeah.
I think they did do that. What there is? Oh, I can't remember now. There is a famous story, I think, of the BBC sort of bringing in some people to watch something being rehearsed, but I can't remember what happened. I'll have to do it on the podcast. I have to find out what it was. I think it was it might have been like Earthshock or something. They were like, oh, they can't come in because they didn't want to see the Cybermen, so they sort of pushed them through. I can't remember, but they did. I think they used to have like days where you could just sort of go in and have a quick peek at like, or maybe I'm thinking of studio recordings rather than rehearsal. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, stuff like that. But yeah, it would be amazing, wouldn't it? Imagine just sitting in there and watching like Talons of Weng Chiang being rehearsed. You know, those famous scenes that we've got on the extras where they've got like who's it who played Mr. Sin? You got him rehearsing with Tom, haven't you? Well, some wonderful behind the scenes footage of the rehearsal studio footage, or the acting.
Was it Deep Roy?
Deep Roy, yeah. You know the clip I mean. There's like a scene of them rehearsing at Acton Studios and stuff, and yeah, it's amazing to think you could watch that.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just lastly, did you like you mentioned the guy in the big wicker sort of suit? That kind of emulated the actual robotic suit that they had.
See, I like the robotic suit. I think this idea of controlling it with your mind is fantastic. What a great idea. Yeah, I just love it when Adric activates it. And he's like, oh, for goodness, and they end up getting like frog march back by it. That was hilarious. Yeah. But yeah, I think that's really good. I like the fact that Sanders is inside it going crazy as well. I thought that was a good scene.
Yeah, the TSS, Total Survival Suit.
Total Survival Suit. Yeah, I must get one of them.
Yeah. It reminded me of the War Machines.
War Machines?
Like the design of it. It's got that kind of slopey rectangle.
Right, yeah.
Kind of,
yeah. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. It's a more condensed version of it, yeah.
It's a cool prop, though. Looked pretty cool.
It did, yeah. I did think it works very well, yeah.
Bit of money on that. Right. Anything else you want to mention, bud?
No, the only other thing I got on my notes is that K9 gets a mention which I'd completely forgotten about. Like the Doctor mentions him at the start, and I just thought that was a nice little heart back. It's just nice to hear the Fifth Doctor mentioning K9, I thought. But no, I've looked at my notes and I think I've pretty much gone through it all, actually, to be honest.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So now you've got to pick one of those three scores.
Yeah, I think it's me to go first.
Yeah, go on, you go first.
Okay. Oh, man.
First of all, tell us what the three scores are.
Okay, so I had a 4.
Oh!
I had a 4. I had a 7. Then I had a 5. And then a 6. So, yeah.
Wow. You need to go somewhere in the middle, I suppose.
I'm going to give this a 6.
A 6, yeah. I was going to say, from the scores you've just said, I think, that's about right for you, because that's about middle of your scores, isn't it?
Yeah, I think, I'm going to give it a 6 because I do appreciate the very deep script and the story and all that stuff. But I will be honest, I do find this one a tad bit boring.
Okay, yeah, that's fair enough.
To a degree. However, I do appreciate the innovation of what they were trying to do with certain things and all that lot. So yeah, I'll go over 6.
Okay. Well, that's fair enough. I enjoyed it a lot more than I was expecting. I'm slightly worried that my score's too high. So I've written 8, but I don't really think. See, 8 to me is it's like sort of one of my best. If something's really good, I give it an 8. So I'm thinking, should I go 7.5? Because it's not one of the best stories, but I really enjoyed it. So I'm a bit stuck as well. It is an odd one.
Things that have been a 7.5 for you are things like the Macra Terror. You gave that a 7.5. Things like the Mask of Mandragora, you gave it a 7.5. The Shakespeare Code, that kind of story, I suppose. The Image of Fandel, you gave a 7.5.
Do you know, I'm gonna stick. I wrote 8 when it finished. I'm gonna stick with it.
You're gonna stick with 8, right?
Yeah. It probably should be a 7.9, but as we don't do that, I'm going to go with an 8 because I did really enjoy it. I thought it was very good.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'll stick with that. I'll stick with it. That's what I wrote.
Right, 6 from me and 8 from him then. Okay,
yeah.
Cool. All right. Right, you guys went absolutely berserk with the audio reviews.
Great. Love it.
So thank you so much, guys. We're going to crack straight on with these. So first up, this is Ian Stevens.
Hi, Ian from France here. So, Kinder surprised me, and that's for sure. I remember hating this when I was younger, but I have to say, I had a blast this time round. I think I just didn't get it then. Oh, look at me, Mummy, I've grown. Tonally, this is fascinating, invoking cinema as much as any Who ever has. Here we have Bergman influences in the black and white sequences, and a distinctly One Flew Over the Cuckoo Nest vibe throughout. The demented performance of Simon Rouse as Hindle was just brilliant, and again evoked the movies. Jack Nicholson in The Shining, perhaps. He genuinely seemed unhinged. The cliffhangers are some of the best I can remember, especially episode 1. I have the power of life and death over all of you. Manic, crazed stuff. Tegan was never better than here, and it's good to see her used so effectively, rather than as a whinger, simply complaining constantly. I mentioned the tone, which is deliberately odd and off-kilter throughout, but there's humour to be found too. I laughed out loud when they started referring to the Doctor as idiot. Proper funny. Any gripes? Well, maybe this is the start of Adric being a bit of a D, but other than that, it's hard to find fault. Even the ending was great, using the mirrors, a pretty inventive conclusion, even if the snake was about as convincing as a Jean-Claude Van Damme love scene. Really strong this. 8 rubbery serpents out of 10. Alors, c'est suffit, je partis. À bientôt, mes amis, et faites attention de le serpent.
Whoa.
Oh, hang on, we've only just got a head round the first bit.
Yeah, he's added a couple of bits on the end there.
Oh, he's keeping us on our toes. I like it.
Ian. Thank you very much, Jay. That's a good score as well.
It is a good score. And I'd forgotten about the idiot bit. That made me laugh as well. The idiot. Brilliant.
Yeah, nice one, Ian. Thanks for that, buddy. Next up, our regular reviewer from Down Under, Sammy Satine.
Hey, Gary and Adam, Sammy Satine here. So kinda. This is weird. I don't know what to make of these stories about the Mara. I've never really liked them. I gotta say, this writer obviously realised that there were too many companions, so Nyssa gets to sleep in the TARDIS for the entire story. I'm not sure what to rate this one. I really just find it baffling. Also a bit boring. I know Adam the Ultimate Whovian likes this one. I'm glad someone does. Take care, wash those hands, stay home. See ya.
Thank you, Sammy.
Thank you, Sammy.
Yeah, it's a weird one to a degree.
It is.
I think a lot of people would use the word weird. Yes. Thank you anyway, dude. Thank you anyway, Sammy. Hope you're keeping well. Right, moving on. This is George, buddy.
So yes, Kinder. It's got a lot of interesting concepts. Maybe too much for one story, but nevertheless, I still really like it. I think the Kinder tribe are really well realised, being a good balance of primitive yet sophisticated. I think the Mara are quite sinister in the early parts, when they're torturing Tegan with the creepy mind games. That's quite creepy, actually. But in the later parts, I think they do lose a bit of their menace, and I mean, their motives aren't really that explained. Peter Davison is great as the Fifth Doctor, and I think he works really well with Todd, the female scientist. I think she would have made a really good companion to Peter Davison's Fifth Doctor. The actual companions, though, I mean, they really have not much to do here. I mean, Tegan gets a bit to do in the early parts, but Adric doesn't get much to do, and Nissa's just in bed for the whole story. I did enjoy this one, though. It's one of my favourite Pete Davison stories, I think. So I'll give Kinder an 8.5 out of 10.
8.5.
8.5, yes, George. Nice one.
Nice one, George. Thank you very much. This is next one is a first-time reviewer.
Oh, I love a first-timer.
A first-timer. So everybody give some love to Seb Lane.
Hello, Gary and Adam. This is my first audio review that I've ever sent in. So, Kinder. Oh, what do I have to say about Kinder? I really enjoyed Kinder. There was a big lack of Nyssa, which was a shame, really, because Nyssa isn't one of my favourite companions. So that's a bit odd to enjoy a story without her, really. I thought Peter Davison was great, and that considering the budget, it was a very enjoyable story. Although I do think the machines that Adric was put in at the part 4, they were quite impressive. There was a character called Panna. She was very good and powerful, and there was a character called Karuna, which sounds like Corona, so that's quite funny. But yeah, sidecast are on top form. It's got some great concepts in there, and I really enjoyed Kinder as a story. I'd give it a 7.5 out of 10. See ya.
Nice one, Semper. I'm glad Mr. Sebling managed to send that in, because he was messaging me the week saying he was having trouble and he was worried he was going to miss a review. So I'm glad it made it through the vortex all the way into our soundbite machine.
Yeah. I think it was Seb that said that on our Discord. Was it Seb?
Probably.
I think it was. Yeah, he said he's having trouble emailing it through. So I'm glad you got that through, Seb, and welcome aboard as an audio reviewer. It's glad to have you on board. Moving on, this is Mr. Martin Arnold.
Hey everybody, hope you're all taking care and staying safe. Kinder, an episode that as a kid freaked me out. It really did. It's the weird effects. Look a bit, tame by today's standards, but the weird effects, this dreamy quality, the wind chimes, the whole vision of the past, and this weird spiritual edge that the story has, this ancient civilization that periodically gets destroyed by the Mara, I assume, all based on a kind of Buddhist cosmology, which gives it this edge, which always managed to, get me behind the sofa. Not so much these days, of course. I like it. I think Hindle is really interesting. There's a real humid tension when he's on screen because you never know where he's going to go. I thought his portrayal was really convincing. It's not silly. It's done very well. The only problem with it, Aris isn't really much of a threat, and it just comes across as a bit tame. But the Mara, with the special effects version, is done pretty well. So I like it. Snake Dance is the better one, but this is a solid 7 out of 10. Cheers and take care.
7.
Interesting that I think Snake Dance is the better one, because I don't know if do you have our scores for Snake Dance by any chance?
I do, yes.
Because I remember, I think I enjoyed this a lot more, but
Snake Dance was back. It was one of the last ones, wasn't it? Series 20. Series 20. Hold on, 197. We gave it. I gave that a 6.5. So I liked that 0.5 more, and you gave it a 7.5.
Oh, really? Gosh, I liked it more than I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But a 7 from Martino. It's a decent score.
Yes, decent.
Indeedy. Yeah, thank you very much, Martin. Hope you're doing well. Moving on, this is one of our writers. This is Maria Kaliticho.
Hey.
Hi Gary and Adam, it's Maria, and I'm really pleased that you're reviewing Kinder this week. It's one of my favourite stories from season 19. There are so many top-notch performances in this. You've got Simon Rouse, who plays Hindle really well, and who you see gradually descending into a nervous breakdown. You've got Richard Todd, who was a well-known actor who played lots of different shades to Sanders. You've got Neris Hughes, who plays Todd, and I really love her pairing with the Doctor. You've got only Tegan and Adric in this story, which I think works really well. Janet Fielding is just brilliant when she's possessed by the Mara, and all the stuff in the Dark Void is really creepy. You've got the really gentle Kinder people, and I love the fact that they are telepathic, and I love the way that's kind of incorporated into the story with Hindle as well. I just love this story. Yes, you've got a big plastic snake at the end, but the ideas in this are superb. The performances are really good, and it's just got a really good atmosphere about it. 9.5 out of 10 for me. Fantastic.
9.5.
Wowzers.
Maria loving it. Thanks, Maria.
Maria loving it. Yeah, that's really cool. And Maria's she's one of the NHS workers, so she needs a lot of love and support at the minute. So hope you're doing all right, Maria.
Take care, Maria.
Yes, and a 9.5. That's cool.
Brilliant.
Moving on. This is Mr. Craig Bryce.
Hi guys, hope you're both well. So, Kinder, what do I think of this one? This is a favourite of mine, a personal favourite from the Peter Davison era. Probably one of my favourites from the whole of Doctor Who in general, actually. I think the writing is absolutely brilliant, well ahead of its time. The performances from everybody involved are absolutely fantastic, especially Simon Rouse's Hindle. He was the standout star of the whole story for me, but everyone was brilliant. I think the way it was filmed was fantastic, especially the dream sequence with Tegan. That was haunting. That was really, really good stuff. The only downside for me, the sets are a bit dated. I mean, they could have gone on location and filmed it, but it's no big deal. I'm surprised Stephen Moffat didn't tackle this one, actually, in his era, the Kinder, because I know this is actually one of his favourite stories. I mean, the Mara, it's his cup of tea, really. All in all, 9 out of 10 from me, a favourite, absolutely brilliant. Cheers, guys. Speak to you next week. Bye.
I didn't know it was a mothball favourite.
Yeah, I didn't realise it was his cup of tea either.
Right. Mind you, I can imagine. Yeah, I can imagine him doing something good with the Mara.
Yeah, another 9. Was that a 9 or 9.5?
Yeah.
Yeah, nice one, Craig. A lot of love for Kinder. This is really surprising.
I know. Yeah.
I don't know why it's surprising. It's just one of those stories that I just didn't realise would be as well.
I thought it'd be more divided. I'll be honest with you. I thought it's a bit of an odd one. Yeah.
Okay, we've got a couple more. First up, this is Alex Kingdom.
Hello, Gary and Adam of the Big Blue Box podcast. How are you all doing? After 2 lovely weeks of being all positive and all that, we get to Kinder. Oh, I wish it was a Kinder Egg and not this episode. I mean, what is going on? This was the first Peter Davison story I watched, and I struggled to enjoy it. It's just... I mean, Davison's great, fine, but it's just the cast, they're all bad, it's boring, nothing really happens, I just get annoyed. 5 out of 10. I'm sorry this is so short as well, I don't even want to talk about it. To be honest, it's not my least favourite David. Well, actually, yeah, do you know what? Yes, it is. It's my least favourite Peter Davison story of his era, without question. I will watch, what's the one? Not the Underwater Menace. The one with the Silurians and the Sea Devils, that which is also considered to be one of his worst as well. I will watch that over this any day. I'll even watch Fort of Doomsday over this. Just not good form here, guys. Sorry about being negative again, and I'll see you guys soon with hopefully a much more positive review of Torchwood next week with Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. I think it's that. If not, I'm sorry I'm wrong. But I'll see you guys soon. Take care. All the best. Stay safe. And I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.
Mr. Negative Alex.
I spoke too soon.
Yeah, I know. God, blimey, governor.
Yeah, but it's your opinion, though, dude. And it's all good. So you're not a fan. Not a fan at all.
He's won the quiz 2 weeks running, that boy. You know, the virtual quiz that I was on about earlier?
Oh, yeah.
He keeps winning it.
Well, he's a bit of a dude, Alex.
We'll have to have a Kinder round. Knock him off his perch.
Yeah. Bloody Kinder. Prefers Fort of Doomsday. Crikey.
Blimey.
Right. Well, thank you very much to Alex. And lastly, this is Mr. Matt Steele.
Hello, Gary and Adam. Matt Steele here again. Hope you guys are well, having a good week. So this week, Kinder. Yeah, I thought Matthew Waterhouse's acting leaves much to be desired in this story. I won't say any more than that. The story has an intriguing concept with humans exploring a foreign world and studying its inhabitants. I like how they portrayed Tegan's dream sequences. It gives off a creepy vibe with its different illusions and effects. Simon Rouse's performance of Hindle is so unbearably irritating that you want to slap him round the chops at certain points. The companions seem a little underused in this story, especially Nyssa, who's not even in it. A decent story, filled with telepathy, evil snakes, and a big dose of questionable acting. It's fun nevertheless, though, so I give it 6.5 out of 10. Cheers, guys. I'll see you next week.
Ooh, 6.5.
Yeah, cheers, Matt.
Not loving it, Matt. Yeah. He wants to give one of the actors a shot across the chops. Crikey. But that's the audio review. So thank you so much, guys. You really went to town this week. We had loads of them. So thank you very much for taking the time to do that. Very, very cool. I'm going to rattle through a bunch of the social ones that we had through. First of all, we had a review through on email. This is from Blair Donnelly. Although I'm not the biggest Fifth Doctor fan, I don't mind this episode. The Doctor was good in it, and I like the British colonisation of primitives theme. Funny how you view things as a young kid. As a kid, I found the dream sequence was scary, and Adric was one of my favourite companions. Now, as an adult, I don't like it, and I realise just how annoying Adric is, in brackets, but I still have a soft spot.
He's getting a lot of...
Overall, it's a good one. It's a good watch, and I like how they called back to this story in Snake Dance, a 7 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
Over on Twitter, Jordan Shortman, another one of our writers, says, love this story. I still don't understand it too much, but love the mystery surrounding the Mara. Shame Nyssa doesn't get anything to do, but as Tegan is my favourite companion ever, It's great to see her front and centre with Jeanette Fielding having a blast. Just a great story.
Yeah.
Davros 1736. Not one I liked as a kid, but have to admit have enjoyed more on subsequent watches. As a dark vein running through it and strong performances. Not a classic, but a good one, 7.5. John Griffiths, loved it. Graphically, an unintentional mix of Bowie's Ashes to Ashes video, glazing effect, old grey whistle test, intro with the star auras and the weirdness of the prisoner. 8 manic Hindles out of 10. Says Adric bloody annoying.
Oh.
The universe of Who, says my personal favourite of the Davison era, and one of the only 10 out of 10 stories from his era for me.
10 out of 10.
Yeah, it's wonderfully kooky with a terrific monster and some really horrific dreamlike sequences. Sarah Louise Baggett, the running Whovian, always running. Always running, Sarah. On first watch, I struggled to maintain interest, so I revisited it yesterday and focused. This story has many layers, and the second watch allowed me to understand and appreciate them. Nerys Hughes was great as Todd, and I would have loved to have seen her accompany the Doctor on more adventures.
Yes.
7 out of 10. Decent score, Sarah, thank you. Edward Gillooly, a strange but enjoyable story. Tegan appears in New Romantics music video. And Nyssa is removed from the story in a silly way at the start, as there's nothing for her to do. Hindle has a memorable breakdown, and 2 Kinder women are cool. 7.5 from Edward. Caitlin Dalek, Caitlin Dalek 100 says it's great. I like how the story sort of introduces Todd as the story's companion for a while, and was really likeable. The scenes with the Mara inside Tegan's head were really creepy. Hindle is a great character and reminds me of Packer from Invasion. 8 idiots out of 10. Dan Pinn says, wow, it's trippy. A great performance from Davo. He's on top form.
Yeah.
It works really well pairing his youthful Doctor with a more mature companion like Todd. How good is the supporting cast led by Nerys Hughes? One of the best 80s adventures, a 9 out of 10. And lastly on Twitter, Lost on Gallifrey podcast. These 2 chaps have got a really cool podcast, by the way. Go and check those guys out. They say 8 out of 10. Love this one. Great, different type of story and one of the best ever guest performances with Simon Rouse as Hindle. It doesn't get talked about enough. That's it on Twitter, and then a few on Facebook. We had Charlie Turner says an overrated one. Not a mess of a story, but I've seen better ones than this. It's also the weirdest story to date. The idea behind the Mara is nice, but I'm surprised that the black and white sequences didn't make me throw up. Gave it a 5. Joseph Howarth, an incredible story. You can really feel the Hindle is insane just from the way he acts. The walk, the way he talks is very well done. The only things I have against this story is the fact that the snake is an inflatable snake. Tegan's possessed acting is more on the side of drunk. Which doesn't help the case. And Aris is, well, he's just bad at acting possessed, and he's not even good at acting as a believable character anyway. Plus, I have a voice line really grating after a while. Anyway, aside from all that, Josie gives it a 9 out of 10.
Okay, right.
Jeff Waddle says, while not being a big fan of Davison's era, this is undoubtedly a classic. Creepy at times, very adult in theme and cracking acting all round, gives it a 9 out of 10. Millie Mackenzie, the first 2 episodes totally drew me in. They were full of intrigue, weirdness and compelling story and fantastic acting, particularly from the supporting cast. Right up until What's in the Box, then unfortunately remaining 2 episodes fell a bit flat. But she goes on to give it an 8 out of 10. And lastly, Kevin Mullin says, superior storytelling, sometimes confusing but always interesting. There is a real sense of unease and danger in Rouse's portrayal of Hindle. Nerys Hughes and Richard Todd equally excellent in their respective roles. I've said it before, I'm not a big fan of Davison, but there is no denying this is a classic. 8 rubber snakes out of 10.
That snake.
That bloody snake, yeah. So, do you know what, dude? A lot of love for Kinder. I'm really surprised.
Yeah, I am too, actually. Yeah, I'm surprised how much I liked it myself. I'm surprised how much love it's got, but that's really nice. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just really, for some reason in my head, I just thought that this would get slayed by everybody, but there we go.
I thought it was going to be more of a mixed bag. I'll be honest with you. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So there we go. There's all of our reviews from some of our wonderful listeners. Thank you so much, guys, for taking the time to do all that. Next week, bud, we're back to Torchwood. What we got?
So yeah, back to Torchwood next week. We're finally moving on to series 2 with Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Yeah. So this is the start of series 2. So hopefully, we had a bit of an up and down journey with series 1 of Torchwood, didn't we? So
we did.
We'll see what series 2 serves up. So looking forward to cracking on with that. And Torchwood is on iPlayer now, so everybody can watch that and get your reviews in for next week. I think we're going to do there, bud, for 264.
Alrighty.
Thank you so much to everybody that has listened to the show this week and continues to listen. It's great to have you all on board, and thank you so much to our audio reviewers for taking the time to do that, and also all of our reviewers that just pop up on Twitter and Facebook. Love reading your guys' stuff out. It's the best part of the show. Adam and I say that all the time.
Love it.
Love hearing from you guys. Next week, as Adam said, it's Torchwood Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, so get your DVDs or your Blu-rays or iPlayer fired up, because we'll be asking for your thoughts next week for that, as always. In the meantime, head over to the website bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. You can listen to all of our shows on there, plus you can link off to the various social networks and podcast apps. And if you'd like to subscribe to the show, we'd love to have you as a subscriber. That way you don't miss a show, and it goes out every Friday morning. And if you have a minute or two just to leave a quick review and a rating, that would be awesome, because that helps us out. You can do that on Apple Podcasts or Podchaser or Stitcher, any of those sorts of networks. We'd love to have that from you guys. As I said, we're on the socials as well, Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. Hit us up over there. We chat plenty of Doctor Who during the week, so get involved over there. We've got a Discord server as well. The link is on the website. Come and hang out and chat Doctor Who there. And go and check out my co-host's YouTube channel, The Geeks Handbag. The Geeks Handbag, over on YouTube. Loads of cool videos there. I say it every week. It's completely 100% true. I'm not saying that because I'm friends with Adam and we record together and all that stuff. The Geeks Handbag is a brilliant YouTube channel. Grab a cup of tea and go and check out a ton of videos there. Some great stuff.
Very kind.
Adam is on the socials as well under the same name, The Geeks Handbag. So connect over there as well. So we can all chat Doctor Who. Until next week, take care of yourselves. Stay home or stay indoors or whatever. Just stay healthy, because we want you guys back listening and reviewing the show for us and all that stuff. So please take care of yourselves and stay safe. Until then, my name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And remember,